Good morning, everyone. Members of the Public Safety Subcommittee on Appropriations, I want to thank all of you for being here this morning. I want to extend a personal thanks to all the members of this committee. This being my first rodeo as chairman, I appreciate the committee's cooperation. I appreciate the committee's involvement and input in this process. I know we had some long meetings. And we had some repeats in terms of hearing from folks, but I thought that was important to try to get a full understanding of the information we needed to make the decisions we have to make. I also appreciate the commissioners giving their time, their staff, participate in this process. Oftentimes we don't always get what we want through a budget process, but it's nevertheless the dialogue that's important, and I appreciate that very much. So, members of the committee, thank you very much for your help on this, both the 16 amended and the 17 full budget. With that, I'll go through the track sheet. We do have quite a bit of changes here to go through. You have a track sheet in front of you for 2017. We'll start with the Court of Appeals, Section 5. The first one is 5.1.1. I'll note for the committee that there is there's a 3% COLA adjustment for the judges included in this amount that you see here. That deals with a compression issue between the Superior Court and the Court of Appeals, as well as you'll find that in the Supreme Court as well. If you look down at line 5.1.7, there's a House reduction in one-time funds for the conversion of the microfilm searchable PDF format. This money was already programmed into our amended budget, so we've cut that out of the 17 budget. The other change at line 5.1.9 was increased funds for one central staff attorney as opposed to the request for two. 5.1.11, we declined to add a deputy court administrator. 5.1.14, we also declined to approve the step increase for the attorney salary scale. 5.1.15, we did increase the funds for the cost of one assistant reporter position with the Supreme Court, and as the committee knows, there's shared positions between the Supreme Court and the editorial staff and the court reporters that put out the decisions, so we did annualize those numbers there. On your track sheet, turning to the Judicial Council, we just approved the program changes there. That's Section 6.1. Section 6.3, you'll see there that in 6.3.1, there was a merit-based adjustment. They requested a 1% to catch up from last year. We also included in the committee's recommendation an additional 3% to keep instead with the 3% statewide increase, merit-based increase. In section, excuse me. That was what I was afraid of. Let me pull this aside. In section 6.3.4, we declined to increase funds for the media curriculum design position. In section 6.4, Judicial Council, we also said no at section 6.4.8 to create a statewide repository for probate court records. We did reflect that we transferred funds at 6.4.11. Those funds will be transferred over to DHS for the 10 parent accountability coordinators, court coordinators. 6.4.13, we reduced funds to reflect a change in the employer's contribution rate in the judicial retirement system, and that's going to be seen throughout. We're just bringing those numbers up to the 17 fiscal year numbers. At 6.4.14, we reduced the funds for the implementation of the statewide e-portal. There is a 20% residual there for ongoing maintenance. Turning to Section 7 in juvenile courts, Section 7.2, grants to counties for juvenile courts. In 7.2.1, we said no to the increase in juvenile court salaries. We requested a bill and some confirmation as to how the money was going to be distributed. There's no bill forthcoming this year, so we'll have to look at it next year. In Section 8 for prosecuting attorneys, on Section 8. Section 8.2.8, We increased funds for personal services for recruitment, retention, and career advancement for assistant district attorneys. This is a 3% increase above the merit-based statewide increase. 8.2.9, we also funded we disagreed with funding the assistant district attorneys for the accountability of courts for Cordele, Houston, Middle, Paulding, Rome, and Toombs County. And 8.2.10, I just note there are 6 newly established accountability courts. We approved that. On Section 9, Superior Courts, 9.1.3, there was a request to restore a position for project coordinator position. We said no to that. And 9.2.3, there was a request to promote recruitment and retention of qualified staff. We said no as well. You'll note we did approve the one additional judgeship for Clayton Circuit at 9.3.7. And 9.3.8, we reduced the number of circuits that have created accountability courts from 9 requested to 6, which are all newly established and certified courts. 9.3.10, there was a request for a step increase in salaries for 22 secretaries. The House committee has said no. Section 10, the Supreme Court, will note at 10.1.1 there is a 3% COLA adjustment there for the justices. In 10.1.7, there was an adjustment downward there to reflect a reduction in one justice's per diem. 10.1.8, there was a request for a procurement and facilities position. The House said no. 10.1.9, there was one administrative assistant position that was requested. The House has said no to that. At 10.1.10, there was one assistant position for the clerk's office, and the House has agreed with that. 10.1.11, we had funds to increase salary adjustments for law assistants. This subcommittee has said no. And 10.1.13, there's an increased funds for security costs. This is a one-time cost increase, and we've agreed with that. 10.1.14, also a one-time cost for repairs and furniture replacement, which we've agreed to. Community supervision, section 18, line 18.1.11, there was a reduction in funds to reflect administrative efficiencies of $100,000, and then there's also a reduction at 18.2.13 to annualize efficiencies in the operating budget. In section 18.5.6, there was a request for 5 community coordinators to expand the Georgia Prison Reentry Initiative. That was approved by the subcommittee thus far. Under section 19, which is corrections, the jail subsidy has been reduced by $45,000 down to $5,000 at 19.1.1. Departmental administration, at line 19.2.10, we've included language for accountability with respect to the education programs that are being utilized and installed by the Department of Corrections. We've asked for reports on the success of those educational programs over the course of the next 2 years. And let's see. That moves us through Department of Corrections. There were no changes in the Department of Defense. Skip over. In section 30, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I just note that in line 30.3.5, there was a request for 5 toxicology scientists. We've agreed to that. Then we've taken a one-time reduction in funds from line 30.4.6 and applied that to forensic scientific services at line 30.3.6 to create 4 science positions. No other changes in GBI. And Department of Juvenile Justice, section 31. There were no changes there. Department of Law, there were no changes. Section 33. Section 35, pardons and paroles, there were no changes there. Public Defenders Council, Section 37. At line 37.2.12, is a reflective of a savings from the purchase of new vehicles that's anticipated from the bond purchase. And then 37.2.13, there is a 3% increase for recruitment, retention, and career advancement. That is in addition to the 3% statewide merit-based increase. Let's see. Public Safety, Section 39. There was a at 39.6.4, we've increased the funds for one compliance and evaluation position at $70,000, and then we're advising the Firefighter Standards and Training Council to utilize existing funds for their IT and operating cost services. And I believe that is all the changes. Let me just double check, make sure. Yes, that's all the changes that we had out of our Public Safety Committee. And if there are any questions, I'll take questions on that. Let's get a motion and a second, and we'll have some discussion.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion do pass. I have by Floor Leader Rogers. I have a second by Ms. Ballinger. Let's have a discussion. Any discussion from members of the committee? All right, seeing no discussion. All those in favor of approving the recommended budget on public safety, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Hearing none, we are done. Thank you for your time, and we are adjourned.